Alright, good morning. Back again for another Sunday morning coding stream. And yeah, let's get started. So, what were we doing? So last week had a bit of a diversion working on my calorie tracking app. And the week before that, we were working on tower defense in Godot. So we're going to continue working on game dev stuff. I will say I have spent a little bit of time since then thinking about some new directions and ideas and stuff for that app. So maybe I'll do some stuff on stream about that at some point. But I don't necessarily have a ton of time to stream things. I mean, not just time, but it's yeah. We don't need to get too meta, but yeah. So, it's something I could do. I recently, like last night, was looking at just doing like a direct, like native Android app with Kotlin. So, learning some stuff there because I've never really done that before. Up until a couple months ago, I had never really like done any direct mobile app dev, but I played around a little bit, and I might have mentioned this on stream with React Native for like a mobile version of this Daily Jewel calorie tracking app. But anyway, all that to say, we might look at doing some like mobile app dev stuff or whatnot. I guess technically we can. There are options to publish for Android from Godot as well, right? So, hey Vavax, hello, good morning. That is also an angle. I don't think I want to try to implement a calorie counting app, tracking app in Godot. But yeah, anyway. It could be gamified, like literally make it a game out of it. I don't know. It might not be fun. So let's see where we're at, right? So we have a thing which we can move the camera around, and I think, yeah, we have our enemies that are spawning in and trying to seek towards the target. And then we can place random obstacles. What's up with? Oh, right. So we made it so that I click this and I place. Right, so that. Oh, right. So that's where we left off. Is there's supposed to be collision on these obstacles, right? So that even if the pathing doesn't update, they will try to route around. Is any of that happening? Like this should like plan to make a path differently. Let's see. So we have camera controls here. Are they? Let's see, 3D. Are they literally going through? Yeah. So not only is there no collision detection, but the pathing isn't respecting the location of the objects either, because the spawned enemies are pathing straight through this. Oha. So we seem to have some gaps in our functionality. Right, so when we place our obstacles, oh, they are just meshed. Okay, interesting. So we're not adding collision shapes or anything like that. Okay, cool. Well, let's stop and let's see what we did. And again, it's been 2 weeks since I've looked at this. I was thinking of like looking at this a little bit more since the last stream, but didn't get around to it. So we have an enemy spawner node. This is what spawns the enemy. We have a spawn obstacle button in our UI layer that has a spawnable scene. Okay. And if we... Okay, that does not help us. If I click this open scene. Okay, there we go. All right, so... Right. And this scene just has our parent node and a mesh instance 3D, which is the object here. What do we need? So I guess one question. So there's a script on the obstacle. And we'll make this a little bit bigger. Get rid of the side panel. What does anyone need? I mean, really? Define need. Right now, I define need as in I have a certain behavior that I want to see in the game, right? So that when the enemies spawn from the spawning area and they walk to the target, if there is an obstacle that is spawned in while the enemy is walking, the enemy will not be able to walk through the obstacle, and that within some amount of time, the enemies will start planning their route to go around the obstacle. And so the collision is just to have a little bit of time where if the captain has it sorted out, Brainless, what are we up to? 21 months?
Brainless Society just subscribed for 21 months.
Thanks so
21.
much.
Isn't that just the contrary of 12?
I mean, it is the characters in the other order. Just a couple more months, it'll be 2 years. Where does the time go? So a couple of things I guess are not happening. One is that we're supposed to have something that is updating the navigation region, the navigation mesh. One, and two, well, we don't have collision, right? We need something in here. We need a some kind of something. Is it a collision shape 3D? No. It's a collision object. Excuse me. Which we can't see there. I wonder, can we, so let me look at the script again. So what tied all of these comments from Copilot? So we have a function called place. Ah, hey, you know what? Is this what we call, did we just not finish implementing this? Is that at all? So we have create obstacle, creates the obstacle. Okay, so this script, oh, right. So I think I had a version of this where it would spawn in enemies, or not enemies, but it would randomly place objects. And so what I was moving towards was having a thing where the player would click the button in the UI and then would be able to place in the world. That's Elixir, right? 21 2-string reverse to integer. That is very verbose. Yeah, why can't it be just like I don't know. There is something to be said for verbosity. I do like the kind of the pipe style thing, right? Versus, yeah. just change the, just make a function called s and a function called I. And then it's, you know, 21 s r. All right, yeah. Whatever. Anyway, I'm being silly. I think the idea though is that this function is called when we place the object. Let me go see. Is it in main.gd? Yeah, we say if the place obstacle action is just pressed and we have a placeable obstacle, then we call place on placeable obstacle with the navigation region, and then we rebake it. So this is why the pathing is not updating, is because we are not doing this logic up here. So how do we do that? Well, we have a mesh instance for the obstacle. Theoretically, we have a how do we Godot? Var mesh instance equals that. All right, on ready. That's the thing that I was trying to remember. I felt like there was an at thing that I was supposed to do, but it wasn't at export, and I couldn't remember. Okay, so that gets us the mesh instance that we actually have, and then we want to build an obstacle. Right? We want to create an obstacle. And then we want to set the vertices based on the mesh size. Now, and we don't care about why, I think. That line vertices of the obstacle of the vertices are winded in the clockwise order. Agents will be pushed in by the obstacle, else they will be pushed out. So vertices winded, that means like if we outline the border clockwise, agents will be pushed in. So we need to go counterclockwise. Outlines cannot be crossed or overlapped. Should the vertices using obstacle be warped to a new... Should the vertices using obstacle be warped to a new position agent? I feel like there needs to be at least one comma in that sentence. Yeah, I don't... Difficult to understand what that's trying to say. Cannot predict this movement and may get trapped inside the obstacles. Someone open a bug. Okay, so I will say, if nothing else, this bears similarity in structure to this code, so I'm inclined to believe it's correct. Size here. So I guess the question is, okay, so navigation obstacle 3D obstacle used to affect navigation mesh, baking, or constrained velocities of avoidance controlled agents. We're not using avoidance presently. An obstacle needs a navigation map and outline vertices defined to work correctly. The outlines cannot cross or overlap and are restricted to a plane projection. This means the y-axis of the vertices is ignored. The y-axis of the vertices is ignored. Is or are? Anyway. Instead, the obstacle's global y-axis position is used for placement. The projected shape is extruded by the obstacle's height along the y-axis. Obstacles can be included in the navigation mesh baking process when effect navigation mesh is enabled, which is probably true by default, but we can set that. Effect navigation mesh is true. Global transform should be the transform. Right, so I think what we do is we have local coordinates here, and then we say the obstacle is, located in the world based on us. In fact, we do something very similar here. Hey, how about that? Do we... Right, and then we need to tell the navigation mesh, navigation region about it, right? Okay. And then we want to add collision, but we don't need to add collision ourselves because the idea is that because we are attaching this script probably to every one of our scenes that represents placeable objects, we will just manually make this isn't right? We wouldn't add a collision shape to an obstacle. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, okay, so we're done with this function. And so now, when I run the scene and I place objects, that should update the navigation mesh. Let's go back to input. Okay. Oh, right, I start at maximum zoom out now. So what I'm hoping to see is that they start routing around, but I'm not seeing that, so that's not good. Yeah, that is not good. Oh, maybe it's working? Yeah. Yeah, see? I don't have the ability to rotate these obstacles, so we're gonna do this. Yeah, so it goes down there and kind of scoots around, and okay. I should probably... Yeah, we can rotate the camera, but we can't rotate the obstacle. I should make it so that when in place mode, rotating rotates the object and not the camera. Maybe? Or is that confusing? Anyway, so this seems to be working. So let's figure out the whole collision thing. So I think what I can do is I can just change the type of this node to be a is it a static body 3D? Can't be moved by external forces. When moved manually, it doesn't affect other bodies. Yeah, I think so. And then it complains because we don't have a collision shape, so we add a collision shape. And the collision shape should be the same size as our mesh. It'd be cool if I could just like box shape. There we go. If we could just say, hey, expand to fill the box that you're in. Can't tell what I'm doing here. Okay. In fact, can I mean, it's 10.5.2, right? Can I just... 10.5.2. There you go. And move it up. There we go. Okie dokie. So yeah. So now the obstacle is something that has collision. It's on layer 1. Are the enemies on layer 1? Yes. Okay. So now when we place the obstacle, we shall have both routing around the object, but also collision. Whoops. What happened? Do the enemies have a script? The enemies do have a script. So when they collide with something, what do? Maybe we need to change some properties on the obstacle. What is this option? Defines the behavior in physics when node process. Okay, I don't care about that. Physics material override. Constant linear velocity, angular velocity. Interesting. What is a physics material? Friction. Just no friction? Let's play around with some values here. I don't know what bouncing this does, but I don't know what any of these things do. that's why I'm here. I don't know anything. All right, here he comes. Boing. Yeah, that's closer to what I want. So I think with friction set to it's still broken. Yeah, they just get stuck. Yeah, they just get stuck. Oh. Okay. Interesting. So what are these other options? If true, subtracts the mousiness from the colliding. Okay, I don't know that any of these things really helped all that much. So let's go ahead and just clear that. Let's look at the enemy. So the enemy has some things. Motion mode grounded. Does this have an effect? Will react to slopes. I think I do want that. Slide on ceiling is on. Sure. Only affects movement if floor block on wall is true. If true, during a jump against the ceiling, the body will slide. Up direction, I don't think we need to change. Stop on slope. For the floor. Block on wall. Body will be able to move on the floor only. Okay, I don't know that I need to change anything there. What does safe margin do? Extra margin used for collision recovery when calling, move, and slide. If the body is at least this close to another body, will consider them to be colliding and will be pushed away before performing the actual motion. Movement speed. Huh. I don't know. Maybe we just need to do something in the script for the enemy. Right, so when we get here, if we collide, this will return true. Modifies velocity if a slide collision occurred to get the latest collision call. Get last slide collision for more detailed information about the collisions that occurred. Use get slide collision. Let's start with just... Oh, I seem to have removed the M. Weird. Collided while moving. So what I think I should see in the console is... Let's see if we can catch one. We're colliding right now? That doesn't seem right. Oh, with the floor? I guess that's true. So, what's happening here? Do I want to have separate collision layers? Maybe. Right, so... oh, one thing. So the layer is how this... The physics layer is this collision object is in. Collision objects can exist in one or more of 32 layers. Object A can detect a contact with object B, only if object B is any of the layers that object A scans. Right, so the mask is what it scans. So we don't need a mask here. We're not interested in receiving things about collisions on this object. What we can do is we can say, hey, layer 2 is our obstacle layer. And then the enemy would mask on layers 1 and 2. So like if I take off all the layers right now for the enemy and we play, then I think the enemy just falls through the floor. And so we don't see anything spawn here. Oh, I'm wrong. Cool. Yeah, but we don't have collision there. That's fine. Oh yeah, but they lose collision with each other. Is a thing that happens. And I do think we want collision with... There you go. Okay. So that doesn't make anything better, but just clarifies the situation. Fun. Okay, so what? How you doing today, Brainless? Having a good Sunday morning? I forgot. In the excitement of the resub and the code chat, I forgot to ask. Do we want obstacles to be in a layer so that we know that's what we're or maybe we can just look at the which layer. Leland says, doing all right, trying to get a shorter version, but seems to be impossible to shorten that code. But good overall, me? Good, good. I was thinking this morning of getting up out of bed, and not laying in bed for like an hour and a half and doing some yoga or something, but that did not happen. But I got down here eventually in time for the usual stream start. Got my coffee. I've been thinking more about I have kind of let some of my fitness goals slide over the last year or two, and that's why I was thinking about the Daily Jewel, the calorie tracking app, and been thinking about you know, work-life balance sorts of things. Although it's not really about like, oh, I'm not working 12 hours. I'm not like you, brainless. But just making sure that I'm setting myself up to have a pattern in my schedule and the way I'm setting up my life, how I'm doing things to hopefully make it easier for me to have healthier habits, right? It used to be, I used to work out a few times a week at least. But that was always in the mornings, and I had a schedule built around that. And that was something, there was a confluence of things where I had kind of reached the end of a workout program that I was doing and wanted a little bit of a reset. And then I decided to start streaming, and then some things changed at work. So this is like now 2 years ago or more. But it kind of, I find it challenging to work out later in the day, right? Like after work or whatever. There's a quality of energy that I have in the mornings that I don't know. And maybe, it would be easy to say, well, that's just an excuse, right? But I just feel like it would be easier for me to make that sort of thing happen in the mornings. But trying to figure out what's gonna work best. But yeah, still here, still writing code. I'm happy. I have a smile on my face. Okay, so the enemy is colliding all the time, presumably because it's colliding with the floor. I guess we can look at, are we colliding with let's do some things here. So one, I want to print some messages here just to make sure that these things are not happening. And then just trying to figure out why and how our enemies are getting stuck on the obstacles, because they need to not. I guess ultimately, right, so what must be happening, right, is that you have the obstacle, you have the enemy, and the enemy, the vector that the enemy is trying to be directed towards, right, is based on this direction, which is coming from the next path position from the navigation agent, right? So the navigation agent is saying, I want to go this way. And the navigation agent is not considering the obstacle, obviously, so it doesn't consider at all the collision aspect of it. But I would think that if we are colliding, we are not penetrating into the obstacle anymore. So I guess maybe the navigation agents don't get updated when we update the navigation mesh, right? So in main.gd, when we place the obstacle, we rebake the navigation mesh. And so we say, okay, if we have the navigation region and it has a mesh, then if it is baking, wait and then wait until it bakes, which this is a thing you can do in Godot. And then you can say bake navigation mesh. So let me read this the description on this function, which keyboard unfortunately is kind of in the way, but let's see, can we, nope, let me just scroll down a little bit. There we go. Bakes the navigation mesh. If param on thread is set to true, which by default it is, the baking is done on a separate thread. Oh, on thread is in on a different thread. See, when I read on thread, I was like, oh, on this thread. But no, it's done on a separate thread if it's true, which is the default. So that's what's happening. Baking on separate thread is useful because navigation baking is not a cheap operation. When it is completed, it automatically sets the new navigation mesh. Please note that baking on a separate thread may be very slow if geometry is parsed from meshes, as async access to each mesh involves heavy synchronization. Also, please note that baking on a separate thread is automatically disabled on operating systems that cannot use threads, such as web with threads disabled. So I hope that means, although it doesn't say, I hope that means that it goes back to, you know, on this thread doing the baking, not the other way of reading this is that it just doesn't do anything at all. Right? It's automatically disabled. What's disabled? Baking on a separate thread or baking when you set on a separate thread? I don't know. Comments is insufficiently detailed. So I guess the question is, will the agents? I think the answer is no. The agents don't look or get refreshed. Can we? What is a gizmo? Do we have information about agents? I wonder. So we have a navigation agent. Let's look at the properties. Well, let me read this first. A 3D agent used to pathfind to a position while avoiding obstacles. Yeah, we're not using avoidance because that doesn't work for us. So on the enemy, we have a navigation agent. What are the properties? Simplify path. Okay. We don't care about avoidance. Debugging. If true, shows debug visuals for this agent. Ooh. What does that look like? Okay, so if I place that there. Okay, so it does update eventually. So take a look at this. So is this a maximum distance agent is allowed away from the ideal path to position? Path to desired distance. Target desired distance. Simplify epsilon. So the issue is that the path, I think, doesn't take into account the size of the object. And because we're now doing collision, well, that's interesting. So but we're not sliding along the obstacle, unfortunately. Where is... This is the remote, right? So where's this object in the tree? Is it this? It can't be that, right? Confused. Okay, let's stop. Okay, first of all, let's go ahead and remove this. This is printing all the things for no reason. Okay. I guess we can try doing this. So what are these options here? Constant linear velocity. Affects touching bodies as if... Okay, so this is like I can impart velocity onto things that touch this thing. Neat. Okay, let's try this again. Friction. So set it to 0. Bounce. Huh. But it's rough too. If true, the physics engine will use the friction of the object marked as rough when two objects collide. If false, the physics engine will use the lowest friction of all colliding objects instead. Okay, well, 0 is going to be the lowest anyway, so that should be fine. And absorbent subtracts the bounciness from the colliding object's bounciness instead of adding it. Okay. So does it... I mean, we looked at this already. Yeah, but still get stuck. Still get stuck. Okay, I think one thing I'll do is in the main scene for the spawner, we'll just spawn like 3 enemies because that should be enough to see the behavior. I don't know what to do about this. I'm glad I found the thing to enable debugging of the routing though, the pathfinding. Yeah, but it gets gets stuck. Oh, and okay, interesting. Huh. So there's probably something I need to do here. Is there something maybe on the navigation mesh itself? Some settings? There are a lot of settings. Geometry. Cells. Cell size used to rasterize the navigation mesh vertices on the XY plane or XZ plane must match with the cell size on the navigation map. Interesting. Agents. Aha. Distance to erode shrink the walkable area of the height field away from obstructions. So, if I change this value to 1, ooh, that is better. Look at that. And then just like being able to slide kind of solve that. All right. I don't need all those navigations finished. So, okay. Maybe if I set this to 2, let's see what that looks like in terms of the pathfinding, right? Yeah, much better margin there with that. Look at that. Nice. Nice. All right, well, we solved that problem. Great. All right. So, wow. Let's see. Then we have some comments left over from a week ago, apparently. The raycast is enabled every time project placed obstacle is called during mouse movement. Consider enabling it once while obstacle placement starts, disabling it when placement ends. Is this true? And then magic numbers used for raycast. Yeah, we should do something where we have like, oh, I don't know. I guess we should we'll make it an export. I don't know that we would need to necessarily tune this, but we'll do that. And then boop, boop, there we go. And then I guess the question is, so project placed obstacle, we do. When the mouse moves. I guess technically, like we can just set raycast enabled here. And then when we place wherever that happens. Yeah, let's place obstacle. Obstacle. Yeah, go away. There we go. Func, place obstacle. Do those things, and then make sure to say raycast enabled false. There we go. And so now we have like this. Pair of functions or triple of functions. Like so. Okay. Yeah, so we did that. Make sure that still works. All right, so we can still place obstacles. Oh, cool. All right. I think what it is, when the agent radius was so small, the pathfinding was very insistent on which way the the enemy should go to follow the path. And so it was forcing it into a wall and was just like locking it up. So there are some things that we'll need to make sure to do in terms of placement. So when we're thinking about like placing, to do implement rules for object placement. Check for collisions with obstacles. Yeah, ensure the obstacles placed within the navigation region, right? So we'll have a map, and it has to be in the area. Well, we're not gonna do. I mean, we'll do rotation, but that's less of a like. I'm more concerned with check for spacing, space availability. And check that. Yeah, that's fine. So one thing we do want to do I think recalling back on previous thoughts about what I want to do with this game, right, is that we will have can a navigation region, can the navigation region be not continuous? Well, I guess ultimately the region is based on the mesh. If we have terrain that is supposed to be, well, it can't be an obstacle, right? Because the navigation mesh is used for the enemies to pathfind through. So it can't do that. Let's see. Basically, what am I trying to say? Basically, what I'm envisioning here is that, like, you know, hopefully we have like levels, and there will be terrain features that will essentially present the challenge of the map, where I think there will be. So here will be the challenges of the game, right? So there are different kinds of enemies with different kinds of attacks and movement speeds and durability or hit points. The levels will have different waves of enemies with different timing and different combinations. So one aspect of challenge for the game is just what enemies are going to come and attack your defenses to try to get to the target. I think another aspect of the level design for this is the relationship between where enemies spawn the waves out of and where the target is. How close or far apart are they? I think the third aspect of this game is you didn't give up on that. I'll look at that in a second. The third aspect of this, and the thing that I'm thinking about right now, is that the map will have terrain, and some of the terrain will be impassable already, maybe. And some of the terrain will be passable to the enemies, but you will not be able to build defenses on. So like a road. In fact, I think the earliest, when we were looking at the beginning of this, some like existing tower defense games, the levels are just, here's a path that enemies follow, and you have to build defenses around it. You can't block the path at all, and you're just building towers, right? I don't exactly want to do that, but I do want to have levels where we have terrain features that do not allow placement, right? Obstacle is not placed on terrain that doesn't support it. Yeah, sure. I actually wanted that example. Or roads. So that's ours to do. All right. And what is Brainless shared with me? It is a depaste. But that's not shorter. Brainless. It's not shorter. Word wrap. That's longer. So we're making I don't know that I can read this honestly. What? Or div num 10. So we've given up on going like number to string and character manipulations. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a no-no for code review. Like, brevity is not necessarily the most important thing, right? I think one of the things is if like in talking in a more abstract sense for a code review, right? If the point is to do some kind of mathematical operation, it should be very efficient, right? If the point is to do some mathematical operation, it feels very odd to like use strings. Like you would really want to document, okay, what are the implications of number to string to number, that sort of thing, right? If the point was to do string manipulation, use strings. If the point is to do some kind of numerical thing, use numbers. I would really want an explanation of doing the opposite. You want to benchmark it. Is performance a criteria, right? In so much of the things that I do, performance is not super important because they're kind of like one-off things, or the background jobs, or they are things in which performance on the scale of hours and minutes versus seconds or milliseconds or microseconds or nanoseconds, right? But that's one of the things. It's always fun, like reading discussions between software engineers in various places where kind of these different assumptions of what is what are the constraints are very different, and so you have people talking past each other all the time. Anyway, Twitch wants to run an ad. I want to stretch my legs, so I'm going to do that, and we're going to come back and probably work on object placement stuff some more, but I'll be right back.